What's up, YouTube? Or what's up, Christ Center Mental Health community? This is me, David Lydia Sarchet. I represent Christ Center Mental Health, the ministry where I talk about mental health awareness from a Christian perspective in order to give you real hope in Jesus' name to the glory of God the Father by the power of the Holy Spirit. Before I get started on this live stream, I just have a couple announcements. As you can tell, I got new glasses. They just came in yesterday. I went to pick them up from the eye doctor, so I like them. They're actually bifocals. Yeah, I'm getting old. I have to have bifocals now. Um, but anyways, like the couple announcements I have, you can support this ministry through prayer. You can also support this ministry through Patreon, and also for those of you that are in the Toledo, Ohio area, that's the Christ Center Mental Health Fellowship group. We meet once a month in local areas such as coffee shops and libraries for a time of fellowship and Bible study and discussion on faith and mental illness topics. It is kind of like a Christian-based support group for people who struggle with mental illness. So the links to these will be in the description box below, so please check them out. Okay, so as you can tell, in this live stream, I'm going to be discussing, this is going to be my reaction to this really popular, it's the most watched schizophrenia interview. It's taking place let me see. It's taking place in 1963, so the 1960s. So, as you know, as you may know, mental illness back then, people, basically, we've come a long ways in how people like myself who struggle with mental illness, we've come a long ways with how the mental health profession has treated people with mental illness. We still got a long ways to go because there's still a lot of very harmful ways that people deal with mentally ill people, but it's not as bad as it was back then. But however, in this interview, this interview is actually leaps and bounds ahead of its time, because this is actually this interview actually is help is actually, I can see how this interview was actually very beneficial in helping people understand what someone who struggles with schizophrenia is going through, how his friends and family react to his struggles with schizophrenia. And it's actually, this interview was very eye-opening. When I first watched this, I thought I have to respond. It was really good. And I just want you, when you watch this, I want you to think about how contrast what you see here with how my interviews go with people with mental illness go, and just think about how we've come, think about how we've come a long ways from how, because we have a better understanding of mental illness now, and we have a better understanding of how the mind works, and so we are able to treat people with mental illness a lot better than we did back then. But this interview was like I said, it was very it was a very powerful interview. It was, like I said, it was leaps and bounds ahead of its own time. So I just want you to as you watch this interview, just think about how this interview was. Put yourself in the situation of someone back in 1963 who would see this, and try and think about how you would feel if you were watching this back then, and what your assumptions, what your beliefs would be back then. And yeah, anyway, so let's go ahead and get this started.
What you're about to see is true. No actors have been used. everything that has happened to you has been part of a pre-planned program with the object in view of breaking you down or...
Well, I should maybe not totally, but I wouldn't be surprised.
Would it be fair to say that you feel that what is wrong is wrong outside you?
As a result of the outside pressure. Yes.
Now, I'd also...
Well, I'd like to go further and have to say that I do recognize the difference between myself and other people in some respects. And I still don't feel ill.
This is psychiatrist Dr.
No, okay, notice how he said he doesn't feel ill. Like, that's actually very common. I know those of us who struggle with schizophrenia, a lot of times we're not aware of our illness. We're not aware, like, when we're exhibiting behaviors of psychosis. So a lot of times it actually takes outside observers to point out to us, hey, something doesn't seem right here. You're acting differently than you normally do. Like, what's going on? Like it a lot of times it takes outside observers because sometimes we do have a tendency to be blind to our own psychosis.
Ross, what is the nature of this illness? This man has had a breakdown, in the layman's terms, major breakdown, which psychiatrists would refer to as a psychotic break. But he certainly doesn't think he's sick, at least one gets that impression. No, that's perhaps one of the most interesting and certainly characteristic features of a breakdown of this kind, as opposed to, say, a psychoneurotic illness, where the individual is sick and, I'm afraid, very painfully aware of being sick. The psychotic individual certainly doesn't feel well, but he doesn't attribute the way he feels to something going on inside, but he projects it onto the world around him and organizes this very complicated organization.
That is common. Like, I know with me personally, like, I have a tendency, like when I don't realize that I'm ill, like, or that I'm experiencing symptoms of psychosis, sometimes I will project what's going on with me onto other people. Like, and it's a common behavior with people with schizophrenia. Like, we don't, since we're blind to our own psychosis, we have a tendency to try and say, oh, I'm not crazy, you're the one that's crazy, look what you're doing. And like, so like that's actually a common trait with people who experience schizophrenia.
Perception of the world becomes completely different. And as a result of that, when he's walking down the street, literally everything he sees, everything people do, he sees a group of people standing, talking, they're talking about him. If someone laughs, they're laughing at him. And quite naturally, he puts this all together and refers to the organization. Have you any idea why this sudden surge of this program occurred a month ago? Why then, instead of a year ago or 6 months ago?
I was ready to take it. That's when they decided that I was ready for it.
They decided that you were ready.
The organization, and I referred to that the organization.
And what would indicate to them that you had suddenly become ready to be taken?
They know.
They know how you feel.
They know the workings of that thing, and they know nothing of the workings of that thing to know that I can be taken. I think the organization is very highly organized.
And that I'm part of it.
Sure.
And the whole hospital staff?
That's right.
What about the other patients
What other patients?
on the ward?
Nobody there are.
There are no other patients.
I don't believe there are any. There actually, I shouldn't say there are no other patients. Other than that, there may. I don't believe there are any patients.
In other words, the people around you are disguised as patients, or acting as patients.
Yes.
It means, of course, that a tremendous amount of
Paranoid thoughts is actually another commonality of schizophrenia. Like, I know when I'm experiencing psychosis, I do tend to get kind of paranoid. Like, I tend to think that I tend to think that, like, if I go outside, something bad's gonna happen to me, or I don't really fear if anybody's coming after me, but I do have a tendency to think, oh, like I'm gonna get attacked by a dog today, or stuff like that. Like, and it keeps me from going outside sometimes, like because I get like really paranoid, thinking, okay, if I go outside today, I'm gonna get attacked by a dog, and I won't, and then I just stay inside because I don't want that to happen. Or if I do go outside, I will intentionally avoid certain areas because I get this paranoid thought. Tell me, if I go into that area, there's going to be a dog that's going to attack me. I mean, even like I do experience, like even like currently, like I have, okay, so I have books that I checked out from the library, and I just keep on like calling to have the books renewed because I'm paranoid that if I go walking to the library, then a dog's gonna attack me. And I know, like, logically, that the chances that me getting attacked by a dog is probably not gonna happen, but my paranoia keeps me from actually going out there and just going to the library. Like, it keeps me, it's essentially crippling me from taking the walk to the library to go return my books because I'm scared. And like I'm like, it's like a paranoid belief is essentially an irrational belief that's not, that's, it's a fixated, a fixated irrational belief that's not evidence, but that's not backed up by evidence. And like, I mean, I've gone to the library before. I managed to get to the library there and back without getting attacked by a dog. So you would think by past experiences, that I should realize I'm not going to get attacked by a dog. However, my paranoid thoughts won't allow me to trust my past experiences because I keep thinking, well, yeah, in the past I didn't get attacked by a dog, but today if I go there to the library, then a dog will attack me. So I'm like, oh well, I'm not gonna go then. I'm just gonna sit there and stay home and just keep calling to have the books renewed because I don't want to go there myself. Like, I don't want to get attacked by a dog. Like,
People invent tremendous amount of energy must be being expended
This bothers me, yes.
in this program for your benefit.
Well, this is where, you know, this is the point where I have confidence, of course, but at the same time I have to think of myself. I have only one life, and if I can't think too much of it. I absolutely can't. Otherwise, I can't. I have to know it, but just don't attach any emotion to it.
This is self-preservation.
That's all it is.
Do you feel then that the object, the result of all this might be your destruction?
Mm-hmm.
This is the goal or aim of all this activity.
That's right.
How do they communicate with you?
They were or are my friends.
Friends is from the strange word you use for people that you believe are actively engaged in your destruction.
Mm-hmm. I need some of them. And what are these?
by the way, it's interesting. Like, so, like there is like, if you notice he's smoking, like it is actually very common for people who struggle with schizophrenia or generally any kind of mental illness to be heavy smokers. Like, I know I used to be a heavy smoker. Actually, I was a heavy smoker all the way up until my surgery last year. And then when I was in the hospital for like 3 months, like you kind of can't be in the hospital for 3 months and then come out and start smoking. Like, so, like I haven't smoked since my time in the hospital. Well, okay, I've had a couple cigarettes, but like they actually I have no desire to smoke, like, because like now when I try and smoke a cigarette, it's absolutely disgusting. Like, but like, so it's kind of interesting how the Lord used my perforated colon and my surgeries and my hospital stay to get me to quit smoking. Like, I mean, I wish it didn't have to be anything that tragic in order for me to quit smoking. But I am glad that I am no longer a smoker. Like,
Friends. How did they see his breaking down? This is his friend and employer.
It was apparent that he was not feeling very well. Physically, he seemed to be failing slightly. And in addition, when I started to talk to him on a personal basis, it turned out that he had a feeling of persecution. He referred to they. The they were after him. They were going to change him. And he had a great fear of this. I endeavored to allay his fears, but it didn't seem to do much good.
This is his best friend of 20 years standing. He became hypersensitive to any suggestion, any hint, any way in which he could find a relationship between what you might say to him and something about himself. He would latch on it right away. He was just looking for things. It wasn't a question of accepting it. He was actually physically all emotionally set to receive any kind of suggestion that anything might at all be related to him in any way. Even the color of your eyes, the color of your shoe, it doesn't matter what it was. Anything at all that could be related to him, he did it.
yeah, I can identify with that. When I'm experiencing psychosis, like I do become like hypersensitive to like essentially anything someone says. Like someone could be talking, and for some reason, my mind, based on what they're saying, my mind will somehow find a connection between what they're saying and somehow connect it to me. Like they can say something like, oh, this TV show is so stupid. And in my mind, like, I'll think that they're calling me stupid. And I'm like, wait, what do you mean? I'm not like, and then I'll say, just because I like this TV show doesn't mean I'm stupid. And then I mean, obviously the person would be like, I didn't say you were. I said the TV show was stupid. So it's definitely, so I can identify with that. Actually, this actually kind of hearing like the people that this guy knows talk about their perceptions of him kind of makes me wonder about how those who are closest to me perceive me like that. Like I'm actually kind of curious about that.
Their close friend.
He stayed home from work and he just wouldn't go out. And one evening in June, he phoned me and told me that he was just petrified, and you could tell by his voice that he was terrified of, I don't quite know what, but something was bothering him terribly. He wouldn't even go out. He said he was even afraid to put his head outside the door, that they were out to get him, this network of people. They were going by the front door in cars and this type of thing.
Now to meet his mother.
My daughter and her husband, they came down. I wrote and I told them that Jack was certainly a sick boy and you needed help. But I said, I'm at a loss to know what to do. I can't press him too much because I think even me talking to him, I said, Jack, you need help. I said, it just seemed to upset him. He'd kind of go against, I think he would go against me. So they came down. So then they settled down and Mary said, listen, you've got to see a doctor. He wasn't going to see him. Now, I don't know what he said. I couldn't say what he said to them or what the conversation was between them. Anyhow, Marion came into the bedroom. It was after 1, and she said, he's finally consented. He'll speak to a doctor, but he's never going to stay in one of those places. Now, I don't know why. So anyhow, they went. They left. 2, 3, I was awake all night waiting for a call to say they didn't come back. I thought they were in an accident. Maybe something had happened. Well, then about 3 o'clock, I got a call was 5 in the around 5 in the morning. And she said, well, we've been crossing the city several times tonight. So they went to Verdun. They said, well, I got to get him in tonight because now he's willing to see a doctor.
This is Verdun Protestant Hospital. When you see me walking down the street, were you aware of any change in the attitude of the strangers that you be passing?
Definitely.
Definitely. How would they, what kind of a change would you be aware of?
Breakdown, see, in the beginning. They're after the breakdown, in other words, keep away, don't be friendly, so on.
Okay. People rejecting you, trying to keep you at a distance.
Very different.
As if you were in some way dangerous?
Alien. Like they use the term Italian. I did alien, that being me.
It's alien, when you're saying it's Italian, you're it, and you are alien. Do you feel that you're potentially going to be punished for something?
I'm either going to punish myself by my own mechanism, chemical mechanism, whatever you want to call it.
Okay, I just want to point out, like, those of you that are on my Facebook, I'm going to post this status. I want you guys to answer honestly. It says, to those closest to me, how do you perceive me dealing with my mental illness? Like, I'm going to say, how do you perceive me and deal with my mental illness? Yeah, how do you perceive me and deal with my mental illness? So, please, like, if you're on my Facebook, please answer the question honestly. Like, I won't get mad. This is specifically kind of like a social experiment because I just want to know how you guys perceive me. That's all.
Or I'm going to get that plus a bit outside punishment, which I don't know. Reprimands of some kind or another, although I've been informed that they would be of a psychological nature. In other words, it would be direction, guidance rather than reprimands. Although I don't know, I'm prepared for both. You can try to prepare myself for both.
Who did you feel was responsible for this?
These gentlemen, these individuals who you referred to before, this group.
If you went to Toronto, the same situation would exist? Or Quebec City or Ottawa, New York, so it would be the same.
Well, in other words, I'd be surrounded in effect. That me knowing it, I would be surrounded in my present state. Later, perhaps not. Perhaps so. No, probably to some extent it would be. Well, for a while I would be surrounded as we would move on, but there would people drifting and so on. But I think that if I went now, yes, I'd be surrounded where I went.
Do you feel during this period even more acutely aware of things going on around you? Much more?
See, if he was to ask me that question, do I feel more acutely aware of things going around me? Like, I would answer no. Like, actually, there's a lot of times I am kind of oblivious to things that are going around me. Like, I don't know what it is, like, but there are times where, like, something can be going on around me that everybody else notices, and I won't notice it. Like, I'll be caught up in my own world, and people are like, "Hey, David, did you see that?" And I'm like, "See what?" Like, it'll be something so blatantly obvious, and I just won't notice it.
Depends on the time. Depends how excited I get.
Would it be possible for you to get angry enough to retaliate?
In what way? And can you explain that further?
I don't know in what way. That would be, of course, up to you. But if you felt, some people, when they feel angry enough, want to strike back.
If I did it, I would do it fairly. I might strike back, yes. I don't know, but I couldn't answer that.
You mentioned, and this may be part of the same thing, that you had before you came in a fear of losing control. That you might, as a result of losing control, harm yourself or someone else.
That's right. I did mention this to the 50 person.
Were there any particular people that you felt you might be harmed by a loss of control? Your mother.
Just possible. I didn't think I would. I didn't want to take a chance.
Might you have hurt yourself?
I might, yes, definitely.
Mm-hmm. Were you being in any way?
I don't know. I want to go back on that. I say definitely. I'm not sure. That's a pretty hard question to ask. I don't know. I don't know. I don't even want to think about it at the moment.
All of this, I gather, then, would have been the result of this pretending and acting and dramatizing that people have been carrying on around you.
That's right.
How do you see all this ending? Or what do you see as the outcome?
Did I not answer that?
Well, yes, sure, although it's such an important thing that if you can just make even a tentative, however guarded, attempt.
It could be our right, I suppose. Again, it may not be. How can I ask?
Are you frightened?
Mm-hmm.
Do you become depressed and discouraged?
When?
Anytime. Ever.
I can't allow it. I do. I know I'm there, but I don't. I have to go after something else to get out of that situation.
I can kind of identify with that, like not a lot, like saying I can't allow myself to get discouraged or depressed, like because there's times where I think I can't allow myself to get discouraged or depressed either, and like like he also said that he does feel fearful, like there are times, fear is actually a very common trait amongst people with schizophrenia. Like I know I have a tendency to feel fearful a lot. I try and keep myself from getting discouraged. I try and keep myself from getting depressed, but I can't help but to feel fearful, and like that fear is crippling.
I have to bury that feeling somehow or other. Do a job or try to whatever it might be.
Just avoid it.
Yes, I know it's there. But to serve somehow manage to spell the feeling.
Has the feeling ever become intense enough that you've had any self-destructive ideas, impulses?
I'm too much of a coward for that at the moment. That's the only reason.
Otherwise, you might
Yeah.
have to leave this point.
Yeah.
What sort of a man is this when he is not ill? How do his friends see him? What can he look forward to being again once he begins to hope again?
Because I was responsible for hiring him and I had known him previously, I took quite a close interest in his work. The caliber of his work generally was excellent. He worked in a number of different areas of our operation. He made a very definite impression on some of the senior operating people.
If someone was to question my employers about their initial response about me, they would get quite a mixed impression. Like some employers that I had loved me and would talk highly about me, but then other employers that I had, like most of my employers that I had, would probably say a lot of negative things about me. Like, like cause I because of my illness, I have lost a lot of jobs. I even quit spontaneously a lot of jobs. Um, like so, like I do not have a good track record of having a quote unquote good work ethic. Like,
Is sick, and I'm afraid very painfully aware of being sick. The psychotic individual certainly doesn't feel well, but he doesn't attribute the way he feels to something going on inside.
Getting information derived from a variety of sources to present one unified whole. This is the quality which is not too common.
We have things in common. We played chess together. We used to do a lot of bicycling together. We've gone on a 1,000-mile bicycle trip together at one stage in the game years ago. And he comes out to our house in the country, and we fiddle around. We maybe cut up wood, or we go for a walk, or he likes flowers. He knows a good deal about flowers, he had a lot of interest, But basically, business. He loves business, and he loves everything to do with it.
His work involved an awful lot of thinking. And sometimes when he'd come home at night, he'd be just exhausted from the day, from his work. He said, I've got a lot on my mind, he said. I said, yes, we realize that it's, accountancy is a hard occupation. It taxes your brain. So, I can't believe it. When I start something, I've got to finish. I want to know the where's, the why's, and the how's of everything. Well, of course, if that's your makeup, you can't do very much about it. But he'd come home some nights, and then he would work until late 2 in the morning sometimes, busy working, planning for the next day. Nothing. I used to tell him, I said, you need your rest once in a while. I said, you can't burn the candle at both ends. He was...
That's actually, okay, so, like, a trait of, I have schizoaffective disorder, and, like, I don't know if back then they actually understood if they had a classification for schizoaffective disorder. So, but it sounds like maybe he was experiencing that, because it sounds like he was experiencing kind of like mania. And I know that when I get manic, I tend to be highly productive, and people do tell me to slow down, and because when you're in a manic episode, it's like you want to keep doing, and you want to do all these great things, it's very important when you get in that situation that you need to slow down and just relax, because your mind is like in overdrive.
So they're a quiet child too. Played very like other children, but more on the quiet side. Never was too much of a roughneck. Maybe he thought that I kind of checked it too much at times. So I really couldn't say if I'm the full cause of it, but as I say, I do feel sometimes that maybe he resents me for being so kind of bringing the way his bring up was. Well, his father and I both were of a strict nature.
Does this mother need to feel badly for what her role may have been?
No, I don't think so. She feels very much the same as most families do feel. When someone breaks down, they're generally preoccupied with a lot of sense of guilt and responsibility. But frankly, we don't really know enough, particularly about these major breakdowns, to fairly accuse a family or a member of a family of having been responsible for someone breaking down. Sure, there are factors in the family setting which must contribute, but we're still open-minded about this. For this man, I think that we can very reasonably expect him to get back to at least his pre-illness level of functioning, which, from what his employer has said and from his friends and mothers, I think was quite good.
And what about the chance of him gaining ground in other areas?
This is a little paradoxical, and that doesn't always happen, but I certainly have had patients of my own who I think I could quite genuinely say were better as people, function better, were less disturbed by their conflicts after they've had a breakdown than they were before. Because as a result of having a breakdown, they have to look at a lot of problem areas and they get help with them, and in many instances really do better than they had before they ever became ill.
And what is the possibility of recurrence of illness at this time?
Unfortunately, a fairly high percentage, maybe a third, of people with this kind of illness will have to come back in the hospital at some time during the rest of their life for further treatment. But when one compares this with a great many physical illnesses, this isn't such a bad record.
Is it reasonable to say that the increased recognizability once someone has gone through this makes it possible to get them better?
Oh, yes. The patient themselves recognize when they become ill again, and a great many of my patients will phone me or come to the hospital and ask for further treatment when they themselves recognize that something has gone wrong again.
But now, people of this kind, are they treated only in the mental hospital?
No. More and more, it's possible to treat a patient like this at home or in an outpatient department, sometimes in a day hospital or night hospital. Occasionally, and still fairly frequently, it's necessary for the patient to be in hospital for a few weeks during the acute phase. But
that's actually interesting. So even back then, they had outpatient clinics. Maybe I'm assuming that outpatient clinics weren't like how they are nowadays. But that's interesting how they even back then they did have outpatient clinics. Like I mean, I go to an outpatient clinic myself. Like I see my psychiatrist there, my therapist there. So, but like it's interesting. I didn't think that they had outpatient clinics back then. So that's quite interesting.
more the hospitalization phase is less and less the important part of treatment.
Now we see this man again, almost well, almost ready to go out into the world again.
What kind of plans have you got?
To return to work
Mm-hmm.
initially and get myself sort of reorganized at work to some extent, not too much. I anticipate a good, I'll be able to do my job quite well. And
I kind of wonder, like,
tell you,
I kind of wonder, like, what happened with this man after he got out of the hospital, and like, I mean, like, I would like to know, his story after the hospital, like what happened to him afterwards. Like the video doesn't go into talking about like what his life led on to be. I don't know, like it doesn't even like give his name, so I can't even look him up. Like, but I am curious as to like, did he end up relapsing or did he end up going on living a pretty successful life? Like, I would like to know.
human beings a little bit more, perhaps, spend a little more time with them than I had previously.
You talked about being short, remember?
I did?
Mm-hmm.
I don't recall it.
Shortness was something that you were complaining about. And this seemed to have a number of implications, either the shortness in terms of your contact with people.
I just finished reading an article in Things Magazine, an article titled Love, as you called it. And that's the problem. That's basically the problem now.
For you.
For me,
Now, or has it been?
always been.
Always. And in what? Can you tell me a bit about that?
Mentioning what I sort of had already been thinking very deeply about prior reading. My home environment, I think, deprived me of quite a bit. But for very early stages, not later. I do feel that's where the trouble starts, and unless I get picked up now, I may be in trouble.
You talked about going back to the age of 2.
Yeah.
And perhaps you meant that the organization's aim was to break you down to the point where you would start all over again. I may be all wet there, but this is a feeling that I had.
Yes, that is correct. I think I even said that.
Mhm.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yes, quite right. So in other words, he's going to be sort of starting out age 6 months or less or something like that, and expect to, and they're going to teach me sort of all over again. And once more, I got to go through all this again.
You had the feeling that this was somehow all prearranged and planned. Do you recall that?
Yes, I recall saying that. I cannot recall just at the moment. Now, maybe a little later, I might be able to recall it.
It's definitely interesting, like that he says, like there are certain things he recalls saying, and those certain things that he doesn't recall saying. Like I can identify with that. Like there are times where, like if you were to ask me, "Hey, do you remember when you said this?" I'll be like, "No, I don't remember that." And, like there are times where I will remember saying something. And, like so, part of it like has to do with my psychosis. Like when I'm like if I said something to you in the middle of psychosis, then when I'm out of psychosis, most likely I'm not going to remember saying that. But if I said something while I'm not in psychosis, then most likely I will remember saying that. So it's definitely like interesting.
There's some parts that they're missing right now.
This isn't too surprising because I think when a person has had a breakdown, quite often the kind of feelings and ideas that they have had when they were acutely ill subside. And when they've recovered, a lot of it becomes quite vague, almost like a dream.
When I'm at my best, I do sense this love of other people and this communication with other people. At that time, I know that I am at my best. And it's no problem then to cope with the problems of life. As a matter of fact, the problems of life seem insignificant.
Now that you're practically near the end of your hospitalization and are spending more time out of the hospital, say, on your long weekends and so on, what is this feeling of being here part of the week and out part of the week in terms of meeting other people?
I don't notice much difference.
You don't feel particularly uncomfortable with them because of this fact?
A little.
A little.
Yes.
I would expect a little, because it isn't an experience that everyone has, and it isn't, of course, an experience that anyone wants to have.
No.
How will you receive this man once he is one of you again? This is what his employer thinks of mental illness.
Many people in the organization have asked for him in his absence. They are looking forward to him coming back. I am looking forward to him coming back. We did not replace him with anybody. The work which he was doing has been carried on in part by other people. When he returns, we feel that after a reasonable period of time that he will be able to regain the position that he was in before, and that we will have an excellent man working for us.
I'm glad to hear that his employer is understanding, and like most employers are understanding of mental health. Even like nowadays, like most employers just don't understand mental health, nor do they care to understand mental health. And so it's actually really remarkable that back then, 1963, that this employer was so understanding. Like it's really astonishing, really, like to think about how back then, like I'm pretty sure that even back then most employers were not like this guy. Like I'm pretty sure, because I'm pretty sure that most employers back then, just like most employers nowadays, weren't as compassionate and understanding.
Mental health is a problem And not too many people will not accept mental illness in the same way that they will accept a physical illness. Generally, in my company, we do not feel that way.
People are not looking on those places as they used to. And I grew to be that way myself since this has happened. Well, I was beginning to see more and more, too, that it's a sickness like anything else, and it's got to be taken care of, and there's no risk to anybody. It can happen in the best of families.
Yeah, it's very. I'm glad that they point that out because mental illness is a sickness, and like it is a shame how even today people still do not think of mental illness to be the same thing as like physical ailment. Like I've said this numerous times before that I think in a lot of ways mental illness is worse than a physical ailment, and like so to say that oh mental illness is not a sickness, it's just wrong. It is a sickness. It's a sickness of the brain. All right, so that's that. All right, so I that was the end of that interview. I do appreciate everybody for tuning in and watching this stream. Like I think that I hope that this is beneficial to people in the body of Christ to help them understand specifically schizophrenia better. Like because I mean, like a lot of people in the body of Christ are like are in the dark when it comes to like mental illness in general. So if I can do my part in advocating for other mentally ill people and like raising awareness of mental illness, then maybe I'm hoping that the Lord will use my efforts to like teach people in the body of Christ about this issue of mental illness because it is there like a lot of people in the church have a lot of misunderstanding of what mental illness is about, and like I just want people to understand that mental illness is just like any other sickness, and like we need to like people in the body of Christ need to have compassion on people who struggle with mental health issues, and um yeah, like we need to like people like chances are that people that you go to church with struggle with some kind of mental illness because mental illness is actually very common. Like so like over 50% of people have a mental illness. So the chances are the person you're sitting next to in church is someone who struggles with mental illness. So we need to understand that mental illness is something that people need to be more accepting of and have more compassion about. Anyway, so that's all I have to say about this. I hope that you enjoyed watching this stream. Like I appreciate you tuning in and watching. Like I really would like to know where that guy is now, or not now. He's obviously not around anymore, but I would like to know what happened with his life and like where he ended up going. I like anyways. I do want to let you know that if this ministry has been a blessing to you, please consider supporting the ministry via the Patreon account. If you do support the ministry via Patreon, it'll give you access to a private Discord community for online peer support and fellowship. It'll also give you access to a devotional on faith and mental illness. I am working on releasing a hard copy of my devotional on faith and mental illness. I wanted to release it by July 1st, so please be in prayer for me about that. Also, for those of you that struggle with mental health issues, me and my team are making ourselves available via peer support. So you can contact me like via phone call. You can call me at 567-343-3727. Once again, that's 567-343-3727. If you call me, I don't answer. Just please leave a voicemail. And I promise I'll get back to you as soon as possible. And also, if you if you don't want to call, you can always email me at christcentermentalhealth@gmail.com, and you can also email one of my team members for peer support as well. The team members' emails will be in the description box below. I also want to let you know that there is you can, if you don't want to make a pledge to the Patreon, you can always leave a one-time donation through the PayPal account. The link to that will be in the description box below too. So there's the PayPal account as well. And also, I want to let you know that I started a blog on faith and mental illness. I have about three or four blog articles I've written already. So please check out the our blog on faith and mental health. The link to that will also be in the description box below. All right. I hope you have a good day. God bless you and stay strong in the Lord. All right. Bye.